Folks at home, welcome back to the Crimson Oak Pond, and if you're new to this series, we built this 5-acre pond over the past year, and it took us several months to get all of the dirt excavated, and we had to bring in several truckloads of clay, and we also built an island, a dock, and got all the structure in place, and then it took a couple of months to get it full of water. After that, we stocked it with a bunch of bait fish, including bluegills and threadfin shad, and not long after that, we stocked it with these little 2-inch aggressive bass. And we're going to be giving you an update on them here in just a minute and showing you how big they've gotten. And if you missed our last video, we stocked the 5-acre pond with a few hundred rainbow trout. So today we're going to be catching a couple of those and adding them to our newest pond that we call Cedar Falls. And this new pond build was one of the highlights of the year. And I think the entire project from start to finish turned out pretty incredible. So now that we got this beautiful pond, it's time to stock it with a variety of fish. Had another pair of eagles show up, so now there's a total of 4 living at the pond, and you'll also be seeing an up-close encounter with a big bobcat. That's going to be some pretty interesting stuff. And over the past couple of weeks, we've been doing a lot of work around the pond, including digging some trenches for electrical, as well as adding a sprinkler system. So each time we disturb that soil around the pond and get a rain, it washes it down into the pond. So throughout today's video, we're probably going to be draining it, rinsing things down, and pumping a lot of that muddy water out of there, which is just part of the process. But the pond is cycled and all the water parameters are good to go for the fish. So now let's try to go catch one of those rainbow trout. Alright, there's only one thing left to do now, and that's to try to go catch one of these rainbow trout. So we're going to try this same little spinner that I caught Tiger on. And they're pretty aggressive, so can't wait to see one of these guys jumping up out of the water. There we go. Ooh, I got a bass. Oh, goodness. This guy's going to pull some drag here. I wasn't expecting a big bass to hit this little thing. Well, they're eating good. You can see they're pale. That means they've been hanging out in a little bit deeper water. Check it out. Caught a little bass. That is awesome. Man, I want to put that one in the new pond. I think I'm going to have to. Check it out. Beautiful little guy. Fat? Yeah, let's do it. Put him in the new pond. So this is going to be an interesting test. I'm going to put him in this holding tank to bring him over there. And there's a bunch of shiners down in there. So this little guy may gain some weight before we move him over to the pond. So here's a look at those golden shiners I mentioned. We just got a delivery of 1,000 of them from Anderson Minnow. And put them in the big tank to acclimate them. So we'll be adding these to the new pond here shortly. Got something. Could this be a trout? What we got? Oh, another small bass. Man, we had a good crop of bass from last year. What do you think? Guess we'll add him to the new pond also. All right, in you go, little guy. So we just did another pond clean out, and now we're in the process of filling it back up. Let's go ahead and add some of these bait fish. I'll give these a fighting chance. I'll put them up here in the shallow. Can't really tell if he's munched any or not, but he's definitely not a skinny guy. All right, little buddy, I'm gonna put you out right here by your fish cave. More shiners in the waterfall area. All right, now this is the bigger of the two. I think this is going to be a female, so I think we got a male and a female, which would be perfect. All right, this area's got just enough water in it. We better go up here. It's amazing how quick they can move and find the deeper water. Uh-oh. You never know what the story on these will become. Could be another start of Bonnie and Clyde, and somebody we keep for 6 to 7 years. So back out here under the night lights, and we just about got the pond back full of water, and we're getting ready to turn those pumps on, but check this out. The two small bass found each other and are exploring their new pond together. Love seeing that. Now they're cruising through the shallow beach area, and like I just mentioned, we could have 2 stars in the making just like Bonnie and Clyde. These little guys are just a few months old, and the first new bass that hatched in the 5-acre pond. So as always, I let you guys name all of our pets. So leave me a comment down below on what you think we should name these 2 small bass. We've had Bonnie and Clyde, Moby and Tiger. Who's next? Alright, back out here the next morning and everything is looking much better after that last pond clean out. But like I mentioned, with new ponds, you have to do that several times until everything gets settled in and you stop disturbing the soil in the area. And this is what the pond looked like after our last rain. And so I talked to the guys over at Aquascape, and they sent some products that really helped clear this water up, so I wanted to share a couple of those techniques that worked. So this is a pretty cool product called Rapid Clear that's a flocculant, and it basically clumps the particles together in the water and it makes them heavy enough for gravity to do its thing. We also got some filter pads I'll be installing here in just a moment, and then 2 other products called Maintain and Clear that we're going to be adding to our auto dosing system. So for the flocculant, it's a pretty easy application. It tells you how many pumps to add, and they base that off the gallons of water in the pond. And because this pond doesn't have a skimmer system, the filter pads are best if you place them in the waterfall area, because if you think about it, all the water has to flow down the waterfalls. So as you can see, I've put these pads right at the base of our 3 waterfalls and forcing that water to go through it and filter a lot of those particles out. And as you can see, it's already doing its job. Now it's time to go catch a trout. And today's video is brought to you by Mudwater. And Mudwater is a coffee alternative that provides energy and focus without the anxiety or crash. And it's made up of natural ingredients like lion's mane for focus, cordyceps for natural energy, and chaga and reishi to support a healthy immune system. And I think it's named perfectly because it looks just like my pond after a heavy rain, Mudwater. But each box of Mudwater comes with a frother and a coconut creamer, and it's very simple to make. You add 1 tablespoon of the Mudwater powder, and you mix it with 6 ounces of hot water, and then give it a good mix with the frother. And I personally like its natural cinnamon and earthy taste, but if you prefer it a little sweeter, you can add some honey or the coconut creamer to it. But if you're like me, and you're looking for a little extra energy in the afternoon, but are afraid that that cup of coffee is going to keep you from going to sleep at night, then Mudwater is a perfect fit for you. So you can check them out by going to mudwater.com/BamaBass, and you can use code GRATITUDE until the end of the year to get up to 47% off your order and a free frother and coconut creamer. And Mudwater checks all the boxes as it's Whole30 approved, 100% USDA certified, organic, non-GMO, gluten-free, vegan, and kosher. So do me a favor and go check them out, folks. Alrighty, folks, time to do a little trout fishing, and this is completely new to me. But I've got a little sinker rigged up on a swivel right here with a hook at the bottom, and we're going to be fishing with eggs. I've never done that before. It's always been on the bucket list, but this is basically like salmon eggs. So this is what trout eat. So we're going to give it a shot. Basically just rig a few of them up here on this small hook, and there we go. Being a bass fisherman my whole life, this seems odd to me, but hey, whatever it takes to catch a trout. Got it. First rainbow trout out there jumping. That was pretty cool. They are putting up a little fight. He's not very big, but there's some fighters. Awesome. Here's one. Got him. What we got here? Oh, it's a bass. Little bass eating eggs. That's something you don't see every day right there. All right, buddy, go eat some minnows. So I learned that trout are a lot like bass, and in the wintertime, whenever the water gets cold, they're going to get out there deep where the water's the warmest, and we got a diffuser right over there. So we got some fresh oxygen right there in that deep water. They're guaranteed to be there. Here we go. Got it. It's a little hot spot out here by the diffuser. What we got this time? It's fighting a little different. Yep, that's a rainbow trout. Come on in here, let's take a look at you. Man, there's some pretty fish. There's one. Got it. What we got here? Feels a little bigger. They fight a little different than a bass. Like this one's diving down rather than jumping up right now, but it's a nice one. It's a nice looking fish. Probably gonna keep him, put him in the new pond. All right, first one's a little guy. Man, it's pretty. Got a nice pink strip. He's ready to go. Look at the golden flakes on his back. It's pretty cool. Man, these trout are such a cool looking fish. Not only do they have the rainbow colors on their sides and the black dots on top of their back, but if you look closely, you'll see golden little flakes on their back as well. Such a cool looking fish. All right, got a big one here now. So I don't know a ton about rainbow trout, but I do know they like water with a lot of oxygen in it. And I could tell that right away because the first 30 minutes they spent right up here in this shallow area by the waterfalls. Every time I'd think that they were about to swim off into the pond and go down deep, they'd turn around and start swimming back upstream. So my first impression of these trout is they're not nearly as shy as bass are. The bass will usually go hide somewhere deep and stay there for days. So if you've seen the last couple videos, a pair of bald eagles moved in during the pond build and have been hanging out right here around the eagle tower. Well, while we were doing a pond clean out, the pair of them were flying overhead, and as they got close to that pine tree, they bumped another pair of eagles out that probably flew in to scout a new area to hunt and potentially even live. And I wasn't 100% sure it was eagles, so I slowed the footage down and did confirm that we now have 4 bald eagles hanging out in this area. And as that old saying goes, if you build it, they will come. My favorite part about the new beach area is I get to see the tracks in the sand and try to figure out what animals have been visiting the new pond. And I'm pretty sure we got some raccoon tracks, but I have no idea what type of track this is. So let's roll the footage back and see if we can find out. As you can see, late at night after the pond lights go off, we got a couple of the bandit raccoons coming in to check out the new pond. And as of right now, I'm not too worried about them trying to eat the fish in the pond because they have so much to eat around here, as you'll be seeing later in this video. And it looks like they got a little bit spooked from one of the camera lights. But they were just passing through, checking out the new pond. And I finally found out who the mystery tracks came from, an old crow. And I'm not 100% sure what this crow is doing, but he's digging down in the sand. Not sure if he smells something or is using that sand to clean out his beak. So one of our other projects this week was adding sprinklers and irrigation. We got all this nice landscaping with trees and plants, so we got to keep them watered. So I'm just tapping off the 2-inch line that we ran over to the new pond and setting up a few different zones. But we're also running irrigation over to the new trees we planted because some of them, like the cypress trees, require a lot of water. So we just finished up the installation. Let's turn the valves on and see what it looks like. It's almost like a water park over there. But you can see we installed different sprinkler heads. Some of them are the rotating variety. Others have the pop-ups that are more for the bushy areas. Also got some for the trees. So pretty happy with the way that turned out. So I came back over to check on the rainbow trout, and every time I walked by, at least one of the 2 are hanging out right here in the waterfall area. And I also tossed some pellet food down in there, but they weren't very interested in that. They are an aggressive fish, and I think they'll feed heavily on those golden shiners just like the bass will. And a lot of times when you add fish to a new body of water, or even an aquarium, they do a lot of feeding at night. But hey, just like with the bass, I'm going to let you guys name the 2 trout, so leave your comments down below for them. So we were doing one more pond clean out after we installed the sprinklers, and I'm already loving having these trout in here. Because even when the water levels get down low, they don't seem to mind it at all, and they're still out exploring and getting in that shallow water, kind of with that going upstream approach. So I love having the trout in here, and I'm kind of leaning towards adding a smallmouth next. Let me know what you guys think about that. So the filter pads have absolutely done their job. You can see the pond went from looking like this with all the muddy water, and now it is crystal clear, and you can see all the way down to the bottom. So if you guys are having trouble with cloudy water, the combination of the flocculant, filter pads, and the pond cleanouts are 100% the way to go. And now that we have that clear water, you can see some of the underwater fish caves and all that rock structure they put in. So one of the projects I'll be working on next week is getting some underwater cameras installed and setting up a live stream. But hey, look who showed up, the smallest bass that we put in, hanging out over here by one of those lily pad bowls. And this time next spring, we'll have some lily pads there, and this will probably be one of his hideouts, where he waits on a little frog or something to hop in the pond. But right now he's eyeing that little group of bait fish, and he does have the tiger bass genes, so he's probably already eaten quite a few. And now that the water cleared up, we had to get that drone shot, and if you look close enough down there in the deepest part of the pond, you'll see the trout swimming around. And you can see we still have a small layer of dirt on the rocks, and once we get that cleaned out, those aqua blues are really going to stand out. And Sarah's just waiting on a little bit warmer weather to jump in it and go swimming. And the only thing better than the overhead drone view is the view out here at night. When the lights cut on and light up that waterfall area, man, it sure is peaceful. And then that overlooking view into the 5-acre pond is perfect. But let's see who's out hunting tonight. Looks like we got one of the trout cruising around. You can see we got a big school of bait fish out there in the middle. And just like the bass, the two trout have paired up. And I'll be interested to see if the trout act like bass. So the bass will school up and work together when they're feeding on bait fish. But I'm not sure if trout school together like that and work in pairs or not. But you can see them using those fish caves. So another cool feature with the Aquascape ponds is we got our pump housing right here. And then our auto dosing system right here. You can see that's the two jugs I was showing you. The clear and the maintain. And those hoses are routed over here into one of the pump vaults and drip in from right there and there. But a cool feature about this auto doser is whenever you replace one of these bottles, you can hold this X2 down. And if you hear that, that's purging the line right there of any air that's left in the hose. Because it just takes a small dosage because it's a concentrate. So you can see right there, that's when you know the air is completely out of the hose. And then you basically just leave this, and this is going to auto dose the pond every day with the exact amount it needs. So the guys did a good job setting up the electrical box. We also got the Rainbird controller right here, and then several GFCI outlets. This is where we house all of our pump controllers. They're ran on VFDs, so you can change the speed and volume of the waterfall. Got some photo cells out here for the night lights. And next up, I'm going to add another system similar to this. So we'll have a control box and some power for our underwater cameras. Now that we got the pond water kind of clear, we're going to try to do some live streaming so you guys can see these trout and bass. One of the smallest bass was just hanging out right there up under that grass. Didn't seem too scared of me when I walked up. But man, it's going to be nice whenever we have some plant growth and like a little lily pad pocket right here in the spring. Can't wait. So let's see what wildlife stopped by Cedar Falls. First we got a little birdie hopping through the flower beds. Then a few deer passing through. And there's a shot of that raccoon getting spooked by the camera. And a few more deer passing through. Not really sure what they think about the new pond yet. So we had something pretty cool happen at the 5-acre pond today. We had some warmer weather, and that brought all the threadfin shad out of that deep water, and they've been cruising the banks here today, and I've been able to see some topwater explosions. But from a management standpoint, I love when the bait fish come up shallow, and I can gauge how many of them are still in the pond, because when they're all out there deep, sometimes I wonder if they've all gotten eaten or there's any left. But seeing big schools like this lets me know the bass have plenty of food throughout the winter. Got him. So we had an up-close bobcat encounter. And I'm not sure what to think about that. Maybe it was marking its territory. Not really sure. But whatever it was, it seemed to work. As the deer would pass by, they could easily tell the bobcat had been here. It's funny how these different animals communicate out in the wild. So we've always added a variety of nuts to the peanut picnic table. But Hidden Truth said I wonder how the animals would react to fruit instead of nuts. So this time I added blueberries, blackberries, strawberries, tangerines, and dried apples. Just like I mentioned earlier, the raccoons are well fed. And it looks like this guy's going for the apples first. It looks like one of his friends showed up, and in the past I've seen some raccoon fights. So let's see how this one plays out. So far, they're being friendly. They're snacking on the strawberries. It's funny watching raccoons eat. But they're either full or maybe a little bit picky. They left all the raspberries and blackberries. I think the fruit was a good idea. That looks like two happy little guys right there. And one of them's even checking underneath the table, making sure none of the good stuff is still there. But the raccoons got out of there just in time as the big bobcat came back through. And so I learned something new. Raccoons do not eat blackberries, but the birds came through and finished them off, and not much left at the table when the armadillo showed up. So now let's see who's been visiting the 5-acre pond. One of the locals is the kingfisher, pretty accurate and deadly hunter. Maybe a small bluegill or tilapia he got there. Some whitetails coming through as the sun's going down. And this deer reminds me of when you were a kid and the water was too cold to get in, but you just had to jump on in. The other one said, no thank you. We got a few bucks grouped up together, doing a little sparring, and the rut should be coming along here in the next couple weeks. There's a cool shot of some deer passing by with a full moon in the background. Mr. Longneck not sure what to think about the camera. And a few crows taking a bath. And another deer seeing the fog come off the water and deciding it's too cold. But I was curious to see if the new pond would affect the wildlife at all. And during construction, they didn't really come up in this area. You can see the feeder that they've always eaten out of is just in the background there. But they've gotten used to the pond lights coming on at night and the sounds of the new waterfall and don't seem to mind the new pond at all now. And so far, they haven't came up and eaten any of the new plants we planted, but only time will tell, because they were not too friendly to Liz's fruit trees she planted last year. And this is about the time of the year we start seeing new ducks fly into the pond. We had this little guy stop by today. Alright, down here at the 1/2 acre, we're going to do another feeding test today. We got peanut butter bran versus strawberry jam. This one's roasted peanuts, rice bran, and sugar. This one's strawberry, corn, molasses, and rice bran. All right, we'll see what comes out tonight. They look very similar, but you can see we got the strawberry right here on the right. Got the chunks of corn in it. Got the peanut butter here on the left. This got the peanuts in it. Got a little Spike trying out the peanut blend. And I'd say this doe likes the strawberries. She's getting fighting mad over it. And the raccoons always find the food source. And we already know from earlier they like the strawberries. We got some chubby little guys. But so far, they're eating both piles down at about the same rate. So I'm not sure if we got a clear winner here. That's a cool shot of the raccoons and Mr. Buck Deer. Now it's time to feed Mr. Tiger, and the one thing about feeding him this time of year is we scoop all of the golden shiners out of the backyard pond to feed him, and when the water's cooler like it is right now, as soon as we add them to the warmer aquarium water, they go straight down to the bottom. So the rest of the year we get to see topwater blow-ups, and this time of year, Tiger gets a lot of mouthful of gravel as he's chasing them around the bottom of the tank. Alright folks, want to wish you all a happy new year, and make sure to hit that subscribe button. We got a lot of cool new pond projects coming up in 2024. But I hope y'all enjoyed this one, and we will see you all next time.